Well, hello everyone, and how are you guys today? Well, I am here to talk about astrology once again. I'm also going to be talking about a lunar eclipse, but we're going to be saving that for another video. So today, to recap on how far we've came in astrology, I've covered the elements, which is fire, earth, water, and air. I've also covered the modes, which is cardinal, fixed, mutable, and the elements represent qualities which make up zodiac signs, and so do the modes as well. These are like the core basics these are like the building blocks that make up zodiac signs, because the zodiac signs, after all, are just constellations, so they don't really have life to them. They're just stars in reality. So these elements and planets, well, these elements and modes create zodiac sign personalities. And just like a person, we have to have a house that we rule and have rules that we go by. And this is what the 12 houses are for the 12 zodiac signs. And what makes these different, hold up. Let me firstly, before I jump too quickly ahead, let me start the presentation. So the 12 houses represent, in the zodiac sign, everything is moving in the birth chart except the houses. The houses appear like they're moving because they have planets in them that are moving every day and every second and every year, basically. However, the houses are fixed positions, just like a home, unless you tear it down, but we're not tearing down literal 12 houses in the zodiac sign. That would destroy the earth and basically human existence as is, because without one of these parts, what is it to be human? Because this is what makes living as a human, and the different combinations of zodiac signs and planets make you a unique person and a unique individual. Because a planet can be in a different house, can be like in the same house, but in a different zodiac sign during a different day of the year, depending on what year you was born, what month you was born in, and how far apart these people were born apart from each other. Because all the planets rotate at different speeds, because they have different distances from the sun that they travel, which affect how fast or slow they move around the sun. To be more exact, the closer you are to the sun, the faster you spin. The farther you are away from the sun, the longer it takes you to spin. So Mercury travels really fast, and Pluto, for example, travels extremely slow. And these planets can stay in houses and zodiac signs for months and years almost. So to be exact, as I said, the 12 houses make up the human development. Basically, how do you develop from being born as a baby? Before that, what is it like when your spirit enters the womb? What is it like from that? So your literal death, okay? And it's amazing because there's so much you can get from the birth chart and the different, depending on which different aspect you want to focus on, because there's medical astrology, health astrology, there's also financial astrology, relationship astrology. There's so many different types of astrology that you can look at, and these different houses make up different combinations because they're almost intertwined a little bit, because it would be really hard just to have 12 basic parts and they're not interacting with each other. And these 12 parts can be that interact in different ways to create different parts of your life in order to make you one whole person. So we're going to start with the first house, which represents your physical body, literally meaning physical body in the womb. What was it like when you was in the womb? like they say, the baby can hear and feel the stresses of the mother and the environments around them. Babies can pick up on that subconsciously because everything is chemical. The mother's stressed out, the baby can feel that. Or it's about vibrations. If it sounds like there's disruption, or if it sounds like there's peace, the baby will internalize that. But the baby doesn't know what's going on. It's like blind. It's like, I can't see anything. I hear it, but I don't know what to do. I just don't know what I'm hearing. So I have to make up what I think this is, or what this sound I'm hearing is. And depending on my life source that's feeding into me is responding to this, I subconsciously now know how to respond to this if I'm in real life and I don't know why. And this also can internalize in your body, depending on how your body physically comes out. Like, were you like overweight, underweight, born early, born late, complicated birth? There's so many different ways and different parts. And this all has to deal with, the first house will tell you, in like specifically the planets will tell you what was going on in the womb, and how you also choose to express your body and choose to see and view the world around you. Because do you really come out as a blank slate if you were tainted in the womb? But it's like a tainted you can't help, because it's subconscious and it's in you. And then you also have, jumping forward a few houses, you also have spiritual things that you are bringing into the world with you that could also, maybe it feels familiar to you and that strikes a nerve with you or something. And that's really all about the first house, is about how your body shows up in the physical world. How did you choose to manifest your avatar? And how did you choose to manifest your perception of reality, which can change. But as a baby and in the womb, you're pretty helpless, so you're based on the surroundings around you. Moving on to the second house, now we're moving on from being born to, what do I need around me in my physical environment to feel? What do I need around me in my physical environment to feel safe? I'm now outside of my cocoon. I'm like a turtle that popped its head out of its shell. What am I supposed to do for protection? How do I maneuver around? What do I like to make me feel safe? And then it's like, if you don't, you just like want to revert into your little, pop back into your little shell, which will later bring up the fourth house. But this shows you how the houses interplay with each other. And going off of a little bit about psychology, because astrology is based off of psychology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the second house represents the basic needs right here, which is your safety needs. What do you need to feel secure on the physical world? And your physiological needs. What do you need to do in order to make sure that you stay alive in the physical world? Because yes, you have parents that may tend to you and feed your needs, or you might have to fend for yourself. So depending on how, that's also going a little bit into another house, but depending on this, but how those differ from this house is what's more innate to you. What did you come into this world feeling like you need to survive? It's all based off of what it felt like in the womb. If you felt stressed in the womb, then you might come out feeling like you need to have like a security blanket and something like to keep you secure. Or if you had a nice easy birth and it was all cool in the womb, you come out feeling like your needs are met and you might not feel that stress. But there might be other things that you feel you need to attend to where safety is just not your first concern. But you know what makes you feel safe, because you're just like, oh, I have my food met. I feel safe. Oh, I have a house and a stable home. Okay, I feel safe. Then therefore, you don't really have to fend for your needs. And that's what you kind of learn to develop throughout life. What keeps you comfortable when you grow up. You start thinking about what was it like in your childhood, and what made you feel comfortable, what made you feel safe, and how you felt like you had to retreat and find a home within yourself. Or not, because maybe you were out in the open and was able to retreat to your home and family and express and talk to them. So depending on how your womb experience is, develops how you choose to go about in life, and how you choose to protect yourself or not protect yourself, which goes into childhood environments, which is the third house. And now that you're safe, or possibly not, but you're still growing, so you interact with people around you in your age, and maybe you start, you know how kids like to talk, but at that time, you know, some kids might be more mature than others depending on how they grew up, or others just might be averagely developed in really living their life as a kid. And how your child environment is. Did you have a lot of children? No. Did you have a lot of siblings? Did you not have siblings? Did you even have pets? Did you not have pets? Because pets can teach kids how to take care of life forms, and also what it's like to have a companion, and also get in touch with nature, and also exposing them to different types of life and different types of experiences, because learning to care for a pet can teach you how to care for yourself. So what was your childhood environment like? Did you go to camp? If you went to camp, you would know, like if you was like a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout, or if you was geeky and went to like a science camp. These things fueled you, but your parents could have also done them because they felt like it was something you would be into. Like if you were into sports, they're like, hey, let's get my kid into sports so they could be more active. You like this sport? Sure. Or if there was like a sport in school, in gym, you could find other things that you were like, and maybe tell your parents, be like, hey, I could want to try this. And maybe if you wasn't able to, you got that experience maybe through a camp, or sometimes school environments, depending where you went, would take you on little field trips, so you got to experience different things in different cultures essentially. But this is your childhood. This is talking about your childhood environment and the people you were around and how they mold you, because you don't get to choose these kinds of people around you, as in the 11th house, where you get to choose the kind of people around you. In the 3rd house, you're a kid. You don't get to choose where you live, so where your parents put you is the people that you were exposed to. And therefore that affected how you choose, how you grew and developed through life. But now we're moving on to the 4th house, which was that little shell that I told you you could revert back into for safety needs. Because what is a home? A home is the place you should feel safe and feel comfortable to be yourself. It's also, if you had it's also how parents teach you how to act in the public life. At home, they're just like, okay, here's the needs, bees, here's everything in life that I could teach you. How to cook, how to clean, how to care for yourself. Maybe how to pay, well, I know this is really young for a kid, so I know this might be theoretical, but how to pay bills. Ooh. Tiny things like that. If you had access to that, if you were homeschooled, that's very different from being in a public school, because you're not exposed to children, you're only exposed to your home life and what they choose to expose you to. So, depending on what your home life was like, were your parents around? Were they attentive? Were there too many siblings? Were you raised by a sibling? Were you raised by like an aunt or a parent, or like a grandmother? Maybe you weren't raised by your parents. Maybe you lost a parent. Maybe you had to grow up earlier as a child than you needed to. Or maybe you had your needs tended to and you had a pretty easy life. You know, there's so many different types of experiences out there that can mold a person. And this teaches you, your home life teaches you both how your physical background, like where you grew up and raised from, molds your perspective of life, because you were basically, is it nature or is it nurture, guys? Was it nurture to feel this way and be conditioned to be a certain way because your home life nurtured you to be this way? Or is it nature and you popped out the womb like this and this is how you were going to be regardless of if your parents had an influence on you or not? Or is it both, where maybe you came from something from a past life or a previous life that was something you need to like shake off of you, or like needed to get in this life, and now you're able to mix a little bit of the nurture with the nature and you're able to make a combination. So the 4th house is a very important house because it also is, as a home, should be how you choose it to be, who you decide to let into your life and who you decide to let out of your life, as well as the home should be your privacy, like your safe space. Like I said, it should be it should be a home should be a place that makes you feel comfortable, but all at the same time, how do you choose to maintain your privacy? Was your home always busy, so you were always sharing your life? Or did you have a pretty maintained life? Not many people around, so you're just used to staying to yourself, you know? These different things, as you can see, as they accumulate as you're growing up and going in ages, how these houses are really development stages of your life. Moving on to the fun house. Bada bing, bada boom. The fun house is, let's leave all that heavy stuff that we was talking about for a second and enjoy life. We're on planet Earth. We are alive, okay? What do we like to do? What brings us joy? This is different from the 2nd house, where the 2nd house is the things that you choose to associate yourself with. Even though they may be pleasures, they're pleasures that make you feel safe because it's what you need. In this house, these are pleasures that that you need because you're being selfish. Because, oh, I like candy, so let me eat this one more piece of candy because I just want to pleasure myself because I like candy. Or maybe you really love this person and you're just like, hey, I would like to create a baby, because sharing love and creating is another way to have fun, because people love art, people love to share ideas, people like to create things. Arts and craft, anybody? They always had kids doing arts and crafts because that's fun. Let's leave some of the hard stuff behind and just enjoy life, and let's not forget what it's like to be a kid, okay? This is like the inner child as well, because children just know how to have fun because they weren't weighed down by life. So if you can learn to retouch with the inner child in yourself and learn how to make yourself feel happy, then you're able to enjoy life more. Now we're moving on to the 6th house, because let's not forget, this is life after all, so it's not all fun and games. So we're growing up, right? And with growing up comes responsibility. So now you have multiple things you have to task. So now you have to learn to start disciplining yourself and being more mature, and really creating schedules or creating to-do lists or getting yourself organized. Because if you're not organized, a lot of things could fall apart. Because imagine you are going to school. This is a great example. School bus. If a school bus is late, that puts your child late to school, which can now put you late to work. So if the bus driver was having this routine and they stuck to their routine and they didn't deviate from the routine, which means they have to have self-discipline, like this is what I have to do because I have responsibilities because I'm affecting other people's lives. So you have to start really maintaining life around you. And that's just not that's not just doing work. That's just taking care of yourself. What if you forgot to eat today? Eating is a daily routine because you have to eat for survival. And if you're not eating every day, then are you really surviving? Because you're not disciplining yourself to survive. And you know this. But there's no self-discipline there. Or you could have the lack of self-discipline because there's something chemically wrong with you, or mentally wrong with you, or just physically wrong with you. And that's where you have to, in other houses, learn how to speak out and really talk about these different things. And through that, you will start relying on maybe people for different things and having them in schedules like, oh, like as like this could be like good things for like people that have really super busy lives and don't have time to eat. I know a couple of people like that in college where they're just like, I have to pencil in, hey, eat at this time, or I just won't eat anything at all that day. So this is really like learning how to care for yourself, essentially. And this is what the 6th house is about. And we are halfway through the houses and halfway through the zodiac sign. So we're moving on to the 7th house, which is now about relationships. And the way I like to think about this house is the law of attraction, which means you can only draw to you what's in you. So if you're negative, you're only going to draw negative people to you. And if you start realizing that, you're going to start realizing, hold up, is it me that's being negative? Because if you don't, because you start seeing traits in people that you don't like, but it's the traits that are in you, and you're just like, I don't like this about this person. Then that's something in you that you don't like, because it's only something, like they say, a thief can only spot a thief because they know what it's like to be a thief. So if you don't like somebody because they lie, do you lie? Or like if you don't like somebody because they're always late, well, are you always late? Are you punctual? That's where you have to start really reflecting on yourself, and then start looking at the shadow self of yourself, which is the parts of you that you shun because you don't like them. Or life told you, like parents, family, society told you these parts are not favorable, like being, like what's wrong with being a little bit of selfish here and there because you're just treating yourself. But they're just like, oh no, you can't be selfish. So when you see somebody that's selfish, you're just like, oh, why are you so selfish? I don't like that. Well, that's because it's something in you, and you have to address that in you, and that's a shadow side of you because it's something negative of you, and you don't associate yourself with it. It's almost like you don't want to look at it, but it's your shadow, so it's always there, and you're just like, oh, you got to address it eventually. You got to eventually address your shadow self. Which, when we move on to the 8th house, if you address your shadow self, then you're able to transform and be comfortable with that part of yourself. Because you've now acknowledged it. You go through the transition of acknowledging it. What am I going to do with it? Changing it, which means you might have to change routines. Now you have to, or maybe you have to change your relationships. You start analyzing what can you do in life to change this part about yourself that you don't like. And this also can be uncomfortable because change can be uncomfortable, but it's a part of life. It's like dying because you have to let the old out. You have to let go of the old to grab onto something new. Because if your hands are full and you're just like, man, I want to change this thing so bad, and you're just like looking at it and you're just like, oh, I want you. Well, grab it. You just let it go. It might be hard. You'd be like, oh, I don't want to let it go though. Do you want to let it go? Do you want to grow, or do you want to be stuck, basically? And this is really uncomfortable because this is where a lot of people can get stuck because they feel uncomfortable And this uncomfortable keeps them from taking the next step, basically. Oh, and this can also be taking the next step in marriage and relationships as well, because this house, they say in astrology, it's the shared finances, whether that's the death of a parent and they, by will, you now inherited something, or maybe like your grandparents died and you was in the will, so now you got something like money or an heirloom or something tangible. But if you also marry somebody, now they were one account, you was one account, now you're two joint accounts. But do you want to be your own separate account still on the side? It's like, how do we work this together? How do we blend and merge together? Which can also be an uncomfortable process too, which money problems tend to also be a lot of reasons why relationships tend to end too, because they can't just work together on blending that money aspect, because they want to keep their old ways when they're in a new environment, a new situation. Moving on to the 9th house. This is all about exploring life, which means going beyond what you're used to, which now that something has died and you're on to something new, exploring life and taking these new beginnings head on is another part of life. Because now that you've grown from something, you have something new to look forward to. And then depending on which route you're taking in life, it takes you down different ways. Maybe this starts you on a spiritual journey because you're just like, I like self-healing myself. Or maybe it takes you down a religious path where you're just like, I feel saved now because I was praying and praying and I finally got what I needed. Or maybe you found truth in the books and the academics and you're searching through reading, whether that's by going to school or self-teaching yourself. That can also be a self-discipline as well. And here, the things that you learn, this is where you start taking things that you've learned from your childhood and the things that you're learning as an adult and meshing them together and choosing how you're going to go about life. Are you going to hold on to your childhood life? Are you going to make your new life as an adult? Are you going to be a mixture of the two? Like, where are you choosing to go in life? How do you choose to view light? Like, what is the glasses or goggles you choose to see life through? Which leads us on to the 10th house, which is all about career. Now, a career doesn't literally have to mean the job that you're working for, but it could just be your accomplishments, because it's about how you show up in life and how... Now, through all the houses, we only have 2 more houses to go. Now that we have all these houses under our belts, and if we chose to seek higher education, or if we chose to seek spiritualism, or maybe we sought, like in a support group and we were able to connect with people that related to us, or maybe you find your group like a niche in a subculture, choosing how you choose to come, choosing how you decide to show up in life and make your mark, and what you choose to put your name on is what the 10th house is. And it also has to deal with finances as well, because how do you make money? Like, that's pretty much where it is, because to make your mark in life, you gotta survive with money. And there's so many ways to make money. Like YouTube, for example. You can try to make money off of YouTube. That's a way to show up in life. That's making your mark. That is standing out. That is being you. That is showing off your accomplishments. That is having a career. So that is a lot of different things that you can accomplish. A spokesperson. Or maybe you're somebody, you don't even have to be that big and grand. It could just be Maybe you're from like a small town and you're just like the greatest person of your smallest town because they look up to you because you've done something grand that none of them could have achieved or just didn't think to achieve. These are the different ways you stand out in life. Moving on to the 11th house, which is your peer group. Now, this is where you choose to subconsciously make your friends. No, where you choose to consciously make your friends, because now everyone shares the same idea as you. If you don't share listen, if we don't think the same, we not rolling. If we can't find a compromise, if we can't agree to disagree, then we not rolling, because you don't think like me, you can get in my way, and I don't want to get in your way. Maybe I respect you, and I don't. It's all about who you choose to associate yourself with in life. And this is different from the 7th house, because the 7th house is about all relationships. But this is overcoming the shadow self, and is able to recognize like, oh, I see maybe something in me that I don't like, but I'm able to move past that because I'm able to see greater in you. And I'm able to see greater in myself because I've moved past it, and I value our friendship and our relationship, and I'm willing to put the effort in staying in it. And then lastly, the 12th house, which is all about, what have we been talking about? Everything physical. Well, let's go inward. There's a house for that too. They did not forget, because this is why I'm here. I search within myself. Astrology helps you dive into yourself. And through exploring life, now there's time to explore yourself and use what you've gained in life to help learn and evaluate yourself. And maybe through that, reevaluate how you see the world. It's an even exchange, and it's a journey, but you're coming full circle because you've done everything in the physical. Now it's time to almost do it all over again in the spiritual world. And that's different type of astrology. So with that, thank you for the 12 houses, and I will see you guys in a bit to talk about a lunar eclipse. Bye!